What's up, lads? Welcome to my in-depth analysis of Zyzz Physique. Today I'm going to share everything unique about Zyzz Physique, which makes it reassemble the Greek god statue so very much. Let's start off with the most unique muscle group of Zyzz, which is his abdominals and his serratus. Right, first trait of his abdominals are the incredible definition and the incredible development. As you can see on the left picture, he's got his torso fully stretched, and yet you can see every line of his abs completely clear, which is crazy. Second trait is he's got a line in the middle of his abs. So this is not too rare, but it makes his abs look much more aesthetic and also makes the symmetry of his abs pop out more. Third trait is he's got this V shape on his lower abs, which is completely symmetrical, and this looks like the same V shape that the abs of the David statue have. I will show a picture of that later. Fourth and most unique trait of his abdominals are the weird shape of his abs. As you can see, he's got a wave-like shape, a curvature in his abs, which makes them look super unique. And you can instantly recognize, oh yeah, these are Zyzz abs just by the curvature. Right, moving on to the serratus. The serratus, in case you don't know what that is, it's this shark grill-like muscle group right above the obliques and below the chest. You can see it on this picture as well. And his serratus is incredibly well developed. As you can see on this picture, the serratus is protruding past his lats. That's how well developed they are. Alright, next muscle group, his chest. His chest is arguably just as unique. I mean, not just as unique, but also very unique, just like his abdominals. And as you can see, the first trait is the shape of the chest. The chest is really has got a strong square shape. If you compare it to his brother's chest, his brother's chest is much more rounded. His is very much square-like. Second trait is incredible definition and separation, although he hasn't got much mass. So, as you can see on both pictures, Zyzz hasn't got a massive chest. His chest hasn't got much mass, not much thickness yet. He's got incredible separation in the middle. He's got a perfect line in the middle, perfect separation on the lower chest, although his lower chest is not thick at all, and he's also got pretty good separation at the collarbone at the upper chest. That's pretty lucky genetics and also smart training right there. And the third trait of his chest is the flatness. You can see it really well on this picture. His chest is completely flat. Normally people have got somewhat of a sloped chest, chest brass. His brother's chest is the perfect example here. Normally, or with most people at least, the lower chest and the middle chest really dominate when it comes to thickness, and the upper chest is much smaller, and this creates kind of like a slope. That's not the case with Zyzz, not at all. He's got a completely flat chest, and it really adds to the Greek god aesthetic because it reassembles the Roman and Spartan armors, you know, like armor plates. Alright, moving on to his arms and shoulders. Now, his arms and shoulders aren't too unique, but I will still try to point out everything about them that is somewhat unique. I'll start off with his shoulders. So, this is an earlier picture, obviously. But his shoulders didn't change too much when it came to shape. So, his front delts were never too crazy. He never had insane separation between his chest and the shoulders. You can see it on both pictures. The separation isn't something crazy. His lateral delts would always dominate. Front delts and rear delts were never too crazy. His lateral delts, you can see their attachment point right here. It's pretty strong and they're bulging out. His lateral delts were always his strong points. His arms did look really good, as you can see here, but they weren't really unique. So, the one thing that is somewhat unique about his arms is that his upper arm, so I'm talking about his biceps and his triceps, was much shorter than his forearm. As you can see, his forearm takes up about 60% of his entire arm, and his upper arm only takes up about 40%. But that's about it, and it really does not add much to the aesthetics. Alright, let's talk about proper in-depth stuff now. Let's talk about his clavicle and his traps. In case you don't know what the clavicle is the collarbone but I will get back to that later. Let's start off with the traps. So most people have got traps that look somewhat like this, but they bulge out much more when you train them, right? So they start off right about here, right at the shoulder, and they bulge up like this, and they end here. And when people turn their head to the side, just like here, it looks the same. Still, trap like this, bulges out, and ends here. But that's not the case with Zyzz. His traps have got a very weird attachment point. They are very steep, as you can see, and they also haven't got too much mass. But why this is so important is this steep angle gives him the illusion of a forward head posture, which he hasn't got. His posture is pretty good, as you can see. His shoulders are retracted all the time, upright spine. But this forward head posture gives him the illusion of a constant, relaxed look, even when he's flexing or tensing. And this is also a Greek beauty idol, as you can see on the David statue, which I'm going to show right now. He's also got his head and his entire body kind of relaxed, and this is what we associate with this Greek god physique. And when it comes to his clavicle isn't too unique, but it's completely straight. As you can see, he hasn't got the sort of angled, upwards angled collarbones that most people have. His collarbone is completely straight. And if that's what you want to go for, if your collarbones are angled upwards a bit and you want straight collarbones, you can try to stretch your traps. Why? Because tight traps might bring your shoulders upward, they might pull your shoulders upward. And if your shoulders are elevated, this is going to make your collarbones have that V shape. So if you want that straight collarbone look, try to stretch and loosen your traps. Alright, so that was the in-depth stuff when it came to his muscle groups, but now we're going to talk about proportions, shape, and details. This is somewhat controversial, actually. Let's start off with the details. So, little details are, for example, his neck. His neck is very strong. This is not something unusual, though. If you look at aesthetic male physiques, everyone has got a strong neck. You won't find a male aesthetic physique with a pencil neck. That does not exist. Other details, his legs. I mean, legs actually, surprisingly, don't really contribute to the aesthetics factor of the male physique. But his legs are pretty nicely developed. They're not like tree trunks or anything, but they've got a good teardrop and a good outer sweep. Looks pretty good. But let's move on to more controversial things, such as his shape. Right, so most bodybuilding enthusiasts think that the V-taper is the most important factor when it comes to shape, when it comes to the shape of the male physique. And this is mostly determined by the width of your lats and the circumference of your waist and also of your shoulders. But if you look at Zyzz, his lats aren't too wide. You can see them here, they've got a bit of mass, but they really aren't too wide. And you can see it on this picture as well. He hasn't got wide lats flaring out or anything. His torso, his lower torso is rather straight actually. He's got a slight angle outwards, but it really isn't a crazy V-taper. Yet we find Zyzz physique to be one of the most aesthetic and most attractive physiques that ever existed. Although he really hasn't got a crazy V-taper, so this is something very interesting about Zyzz shape. And also when it comes to proportions, his waist is quite narrow, and the shoulders are nicely developed, but they aren't super wide. If you look at other bodybuilders, other bodybuilding enthusiasts, and at their frames, they've got much wider shoulders, or at least there are many men with much wider shoulders. Zyzz really hasn't got a broad frame, and he still looks super aesthetic. So that's something very interesting that I found out about Zyzz physique, and I hope this stimulates your thoughts and maybe changes your view on what actually makes the male physique look attractive. This is something that's very interesting to me. All right. I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned a new thing, some new things. that you didn't know before. You noticed a few things that you didn't notice before. And yeah, have a nice day, lads.